Welcome to Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly conversation with restaurateurs, chefs, growers, and others who have helped generate the legends associated with the eateries across the Mid-South. The team at Benny Keith is proud to sponsor this adventure with the goal of preserving the stories that have helped cultivate an amazing food scene across the Mid-South. So kick back and enjoy a Heaping Spoonful.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Heaping Spoonful. I'm Kelly Bass, your host. I'd like to thank Benny Keith Foods for giving me the chance to visit with the Mid-South's top chefs and restaurateurs on this podcast. I've reported on the Central Arkansas restaurant scene for almost 4 decades. Yes, I am old. Mostly writing restaurant reviews and features for Little Rock newspapers and magazines. But now for a couple of years, I have been recording these episodes of Heaping Spoonful, and let me tell you, I like talking about the food scene a lot more than I like writing about it. That's why I've enjoyed hosting this podcast, Heaping Spoonful. Today, I am very happy to welcome Kyle Carson, executive chef at Grumpy Rabbit, a restaurant that opened in January of 2021 in a renovated 115-year-old building in Lonoke, Arkansas. We'll talk more about Lonoke in just a minute. Welcome, Kyle.
Hey, thank you for having me. And I don't blame you for not liking writing. I don't like writing either.
Well,
that's why I cook.
I did a lot of it, and that's fine. But, you know, in the old days, we would do this interview, and then I'd go back to the newspaper, and I would write about it. This time, when we finish the interview, it's done. And both your parents are journalists, retired journalists, and both very well known around Central Arkansas, Janet Carson and Clay Carson. So that's cool. I didn't put it together because Carson's not that rare a name, but that's neat that we share that background. So let me say that even though it's been a little over 2 years since the Grumpy Rabbit opened, I'm sure it's still taking some people in Central Arkansas by surprise, because a really great restaurant in Lonoke, which your restaurant is a really great restaurant.
Thank you.
That's, Lonoke has a population of about 4,200 people. So do you have to spend much time convincing people, no, really, it's worth driving to Lonoke? Or do they already kind of know that?
Oh, the people who have been there already know that. But yes, at least 10 to 15 times a day, somebody will see me in my chef coat and ask me where I work, and I'll tell them. And they say, where's that? And I say, Lonoke. And they say, oh, that sounds great, but that's a little far. And I say, trust me, it's worth it. You're going to get the same caliber food you get in downtown Little Rock, North Little Rock. Yeah. And it's just, a totally different atmosphere.
Yeah, it's cool. It really is. And I've been there several times, and yeah, y'all have got a great thing going on. So we'll tell the story of how Grumpy Rabbit came to be in just a bit. But one of the first coups the owners pulled off was hiring James Hale as executive chef. James is a James Beard Award nominee as best chef in the South, and he has a long and rich history around here before he came to Grumpy Rabbit. Did he recruit you there? If not, how did you find your way to the Grumpy Rabbit?
Well, it's actually a funny story. I was the last sous chef for Acadia.
Oh, which was James Hale's restaurant that he owned.
It was. And
great
then,
place.
When it closed, I moved on to Terry Spiner Food, and from there I went on to other places. And then I ended up at Heifer International.
Yeah, another great place.
And the pandemic hit.
Yep.
And I went, 11 months without a job.
Sure.
And ended up at ASMSA.
Right, which is Arkansas School for Math, Sciences, and Arts in Hot Springs. It's a residential high school
And it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. And then...
because they had to eat during the pandemic.
And then 7 months after I started working there, Thanksgiving break rolled around, and they weren't coming back till January. So I was going to be off for 4 more months, and I didn't want to do that. And I was on Facebook one day, kind of in self-pity, and I saw James had made a post saying he was looking for cooks at the Grumpy Rabbit. And I said, hey, man, I need a job.
Yeah.
And he said, come on. And that's how I ended up there.
Oh, that's great. Well, to see you'd already proven yourself to him at Acadia. That's really cool. So we've caught up with where you are now and how you got there. So let's go back a bit. Was food important to you at a young age, other than eating it? I mean, were your parents food focused or good cooks, or did you just eat, not live to eat, but eat to live? And then, if that's the case, when did things change?
Well, my grandma was always a big cook, and we would go over there every Sunday after church and have dinner. And all of my friends didn't really have that experience. My mom always made us sit at the dinner table and eat.
Sure.
We didn't eat in front of the TV unless it was like a special occasion and we had ordered out pizza or whatever. But if we had made dinner, we were eating at the table.
Right.
And so it just came to be that that's how it was. And then I started cooking with my grandma. And then me and my mom, when the Food Network started up, Emerald Live would come on at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. And that was one day a week she would let me stay up past my bedtime and we would watch that together. And then when I was around 8 or 9 years old, we went to New Orleans and they had dinner reservations at a really nice restaurant. I don't remember what it was.
Right.
But their friends had to back out last minute, so they took me and my sister. And we were the only kids in the place, and we were told way ahead of time, if you act a fool,
you're in trouble.
Yeah. But I remember looking around and seeing everybody having a good time, and I wanted to do that. We're in one of the few fields where you get instant gratification.
That is a really good point. It's interesting because, as I told you, we've now done 80 episodes of Heaping Spoonful, or we're in the middle of our 80th, and a consistent theme from chefs and restaurant owners has been just watching people enjoying what they do right there, like you say. Yeah. They take their first bite, you're watching, they're like, oh, man, this is great. I mean, very few of us get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very rare thing. I mean, you have a guy that might spend 3 months building a house, and then he never sees the person walk into it for the first time. I can walk out in the dining room and see you take your first bite of my steak, and
yeah, I
know right away whether you liked it or not. I don't even have to ask.
Yeah, you can see it on my face. So you got the love of food from Grandma and from also the family meals around the table in the Carson household. And then the bug bit you when you were a youngster and got a chance to go to a nice place in New Orleans with your parents and your sister. So when did you get your first restaurant job? Was that sometime when did that happen?
On my 14th birthday, May 15th. I don't remember what year, but it was my 14th birthday.
And what was that job?
Luigi's Pizza. I was a prep cook and dishwasher on Chico Road. I have
eaten at Luigi's, and I've reviewed that one for the Arkansas Gazette. It was a bastion of really, really pretty good cooking in Southwest Little Rock, which there's a lot of particularly Mexican now, but Luigi's was a good spot. Now they got one out in Bryant.
Yeah, it's the same owner.
Yeah.
Everything. They just moved. He lived out there. His name was Hamid. Him and my dad knew each other. My birthday present on my 14th birthday was his time and gas driving me around to get my first job. And we went to Luby's and all kinds of other places, and we stopped in for lunch at Luigi's, and he came up and talked to us and said, "What are y'all out doing?" And my dad told him, he said, "When can he start?" My dad got up and left.
You're working, Kyle. Oh, that's great.
I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, that's cool. So obviously you knew it was something you wanted to do. So take us through you've talked a little bit about it. Let's talk a little about your career progression. So, obviously you're going to high school and working in restaurants. When did you decide that you wanted to pursue a degree in culinary arts and hospitality at University of Arkansas Pulaski Technical College?
Well, I went through a little rough patch after graduation, bounced around from college to college, and it wasn't really my thing. I didn't fit in anywhere. And then me and one of my best friends started talking about joining the military. Mm-hmm. And my mom really didn't like that idea. Obviously there was a war going on and whatnot. And so she looked into it and found a culinary school, and I said, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And then I found my home.
Right.
I mean, I found people that I fit in with. I excelled at it.
Yeah.
My teachers were great.
Yeah.
And it just kind of spurred from there.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the folks who listen to Heaping Spoonful and live around Central Arkansas know about the culinary school there, but it really is a gem, and you can't go in a restaurant, particularly a decent-sized restaurant in this area where there's not folks who got their training there. So what did I always, people say to me, or you hear people say, well, in college I took calculus, and boy, I never have used that again the rest of my, blah, blah, blah. What were some of the things you learned in culinary school that were like, yes, if I didn't know, if I hadn't gone to culinary school, I probably would have picked that up somewhere along the way, but boy, I learned this or that. What are the things that were really valuable there?
Food costing and plate costing for sure.
Because that's the business.
Yeah, it really is the business side. I went in having already worked in the kitchens for.
So you knew how to use knives.
Yeah, I knew how to do that. I mean, the technical knife cuts and things, of course, and then just people who don't really understand food tend to overcomplicate things. And the biggest thing I learned in culinary school was not be afraid to fail, because you won't create something new unless you try it.
Sure.
So,
and you do. There are amazing still there. instructors. I mean, some of the top chefs around the area, Jamie McAfee from Pine Bluff.
Oh, he was one of my favorite teachers ever. Cynthia East, Todd Gold was the director of the school at the time. Jamie McAfee's son, he wasn't really there when I was there, but right when I was leaving, Suzanne Campbell. I mean, those are big role models of mine.
Sure. And, it's really cool because Jamie McAfee, who also has been, as have Todd Goldman, Heaping Spoonful guest, Jamie's got a great job and a great following. He I'm sure, could have just been the chef and running Pine Bluff Country Club, but he wanted to give back, and that's really what teaching.
And he's amazing.
Oh, yeah. He's well.
And I hate to leave out Duke Iman.
Okay, I don't know Duke. That's cool.
He was my first food teacher in the school, and he probably had the best knife skills of anybody I've ever met.
It's really cool. All right, now let's take things back to Lonoke.
Okay.
Again, to do a level set for our listeners who might not be familiar, it's about 25 miles. This town is about 25 miles east of Little Rock. It's right off Interstate 40, which is one of the country's major east-west highways. TripAdvisor shows there's 18 eateries in Lonoke, and hey, number 3 is Waffle House. Now, I like Waffle House, but I'm not reporting any of that to disparage Lonoke, only to make the point this town is not where one might logically expect to find a really good restaurant that's a home cooking joint. I would ask if you were surprised with what you found going on at Grumpy Rabbit, but you knew James Hale and he was there, so you knew it was good.
Well, it's funny you say that because when he gave me the address, I put it in my GPS and I went out there to check it out for the first time in November of 2020. And it took me to this little Chinese food restaurant. And I mean, it's a great restaurant. It really is. It's good Chinese food. And I called him up. I'm standing in the dining room of this restaurant, and I said, I know you did not. I said, I'm standing in the middle of this Chinese food restaurant. And he started chuckling. He said, come around back. You're in the wrong place. And so I walked out back, and we went inside the actual restaurant. I mean, I was just blown away.
Yeah, they've really done it right.
I mean, it looks like it belongs in downtown Chicago or New York or, San Francisco. It's really, really well done. You would not expect that in a town of 4,200.
No, I know. Well, one of the patron saints of Lonoke is Gina and Jim Werdelack. And Gina, they're the owners of Grumpy Rabbit, and Gina's a Lonoke native. Jim has retired with her there after a very successful career as an insurance executive. So I kind of figured, they funded this amazing building, put all the work in the building. I mean, I know from talking to James and from being there that the kitchen is top notch. And I figure they sort of wanted a really nice place to eat and hang out in Lonoke, and thank goodness they got it, and so did everybody else. Gigi, as Gina's known, and then Jim, his nickname is Grumpy.
Yep.
And the Lonoke high school and maybe junior high mascot is the Jackrabbit.
Oh, so even the elementary school, everything.
So Grumpy Rabbit comes down. And the times I've been there, they're hanging out. Are they people, when customers come in, do they expect to see particularly Gigi and visit with her?
I don't know if they expect to see it, but if Gigi's there and she hasn't seen you before, you best believe she's going to come introduce herself. If you're a regular, she might leave you alone a time or two.
Right.
I don't mean that to sound the way that did. But no, she is definitely a customer person. And I mean, she is awesome.
Yeah, she really is. And again, I've often, talking to folks on this podcast, that having that personality and having that person that just makes you feel good about being there is important. So, the Grumpy Rabbit recently, and we're recording this in early February of 2023, celebrated its second anniversary. So that the new is, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, the new has worn off. And, while people might have adventured to Lonoke to check it out, you got to be doing lots of things right to keep them coming back. So how have you guys kept things fresh, fun, and new?
Well, we have a really talented kitchen staff and a really talented front of house staff, to be honest. We do really awesome specials all the time. We've implemented a few new things. We have a fresh catch on the menu now. Mm-hmm. We have fresh seafood flown in from all over the world, overnighted 2 or 3 times a week. We've switched all of our pork products over to Bansley Berkshire Pork Farms in Harrison, Arkansas.
Oh,
so
cool.
We're trying to source as much locally as we can. In our growing seasons, we get as much of our produce locally as we can. We do special event nights. We have an Italian night coming up, and we're the only place in Lonoke that has a bar.
Well, that makes a big difference too. Well, so yeah, again, you're focusing on quality ingredients sourced locally, or having fresh things brought in. And as you said earlier about what you learned in culinary school, it's like really good product cooked simply but well is you don't have to make it complicated. It sounds like y'all are really doing that right.
What they told me when they hired me was, we don't care what you do, we just want it to taste good, and we want to try to make some money.
Right. That's and therefore your food cost, plate cost comes in.
But they said other than that, all we care about is good quality food.
Yeah. So I can only imagine, getting a chance to work under someone like James Hale. Of course, you already knew him. You'd worked with him at Acadia. That's a great opportunity for the rest of you in the Grumpy Rabbit Kitchen. Just as I ask you to talk about what you learned, in culinary school, and that has remained important, now I'll ask you, have you learned things from James himself on either of your 2 times working with him?
Oh, yes.
That made that prepared you? What are a couple of things that...
to be artistic and to follow my gut.
Right.
To not settle for something that I wouldn't want to eat myself. I mean, that was one of his big things. Nobody wants to waste food,
right,
or throw something away. But if it's not something you want to sell or would want to come to your table, start over. How to treat people and to surround yourself with talented people, because you cannot do it by yourself.
Hey, those are all great lessons, and clearly you've learned them well. All right, we're going to take a short break here on Heaping Spoonful. We're going to be back in just a bit with Kyle Carson, executive chef at Grumpy Rabbit, a really cool restaurant in downtown Lonoke, Arkansas, that has been a hit since it opened in early 2021.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We at Benny Keith Foods enjoy talking about the food scene almost as much as we enjoy providing the top quality ingredients that help restaurateurs and chefs across the Mid-South create their magic. Now let's dive even deeper into the culinary world with your host, Kelly Bass.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Heaping Spoonful and our chat with Kyle Carson. So your supper menu, and I like that it's supper because in Arkansas that is supper, and you mentioned earlier having Sunday dinner at your grandmother's, and which is Sunday dinner is
they were
lunch.
Yankees.
Yeah, so everybody get used to that. But anyway, it looks like, again, it's expanded. The menu for the supper is, it looks like it's expanded a little bit. Does it change often, or you mentioned that you all are doing more specials, or is it just, I guess you've just added more choices like the fresh catch?
Well, I mean, our dinner menu, we have changed it now, I think, 3 or 4 times since we've started. There's obvious staples we can't get rid of. I mean, right. I think the town would riot if we got rid of the redfish or the ribeye. And so we did the fresh catch because we don't have to tell you exactly what it is. We can just get in what we can get. And then we do a dinner special, a sandwich of the day, and we do rotate certain things in and out.
You got your staples. And in the top of the menu starts with steak. So you've got the filet and the ribeye,
yep,
both hand cut. And you already told me what I wanted to know about the ribeye, which is if we took it off, there'd be mutiny. I'm sure you can't go wrong with cooking a good steak. Steak's pretty popular at Grumpy Rabbit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we go through, 1,000 pounds of ribeye a week.
Wow, that's great. And again, you as you said, do not think about getting rid of the black and red fish, and you got a fresh catch. I guess the nice thing for a chef is when you get the catch and you see what it is, and you figure out the way to prepare it. Like, Brave New Restaurant's known for its fresh fish. It always comes with a beurre blanc sauce of some sort. Do you vary how you treat the fresh catch based on what it is?
Oh yes, absolutely. We've sold in the last couple of months 600 or 700 oysters. This last week we did poached halibut with a foie gras rice pilaf and balsamic reduction and microgreens and edible flowers. And I mean, I have a really talented crew.
That sounds great. And clearly you get a chance to spread your wings and be imaginative too.
Well, the one thing that we've really started in the last couple of months is when we do the fresh catch or a special of the day or whatever, it's a mystery basket, and we give it to one of the line cooks and we say, make a plate.
Oh, cool. Keeps them engaged in their mind.
Yeah, it just keeps it fun.
Yeah. And you've got seared duck breast and you got a grilled pork chop. Both of those scream Arkansas. You're in the duck world right there. So I'm sure that those are both popular as well.
And I'd be willing to bet we have one of the best pork chops in the country.
Sweet. Yeah, and you've said you've gotten even a better grade of pork a brand of pork than you sold before. So one of the most interesting supper entrees to me is the swamp grits. Tell our listeners what swamp grits mean.
Well, that is actually James Hale's, and it's something that we have to keep around because it's too good to get rid of.
Right.
So it's sautéed pieces of red snapper, wild-caught Gulf shrimp, crawfish, cream, tomatoes, onions, bell peppers over cheddar grits. I mean, it's absolutely outstanding.
What a nice mix of seafood you got.
And we serve it at dinner in a really large portion, and then we serve it at brunch on Saturdays and Sundays in a smaller portion for a less amount of money.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great.
But it's one of our biggest sellers.
Yeah. I mean, unless you said we're not even thinking about getting rid of that one. So a consistent theme with I mentioned earlier is you can't go wrong with offering a good steak or a good burger. So you got a grumpy burger. Is that just what makes a grumpy burger great? The quality of the beef, the way you cook it, or how you dress it?
We do use really good beef. We hand patty our own 8-ounce patties. We use the extra thick cut Wright's brand bacon.
I love Wright's.
House-made American cheese, white American cheese, garlic aioli. We use nice lettuce, nice tomatoes, brioche buns, and then we sear it on the flat top. You get that nice crispy crust, greasy burger. I mean, it's an all-American hamburger.
It sounds fabulous. And you also offer the Impossible veggie version and a turkey burger. Do those get much traction or not?
I was actually shocked. Yes, they do.
Wow, that's cool.
I've had so many but conversations with customers that have called me out complaining that we have given them a beef patty when they've ordered the Impossible Burger, and I've said, no, I assure you,
right,
that is a veggie patty. And then the turkey burger, I mean, we sell a ton of those too.
Yeah, I like turkey burgers. So let's talk about the appetizer section, which is titled Shareables. So we all know what tater tots are, but the tater tots you got are not your typical tater tot.
Tell us about that. It's basically a potato pancake that we deep fry. It's just, imagine a...
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you pick your dipping sauces, and they're excellent.
Oh, that sounds great.
And we just started doing house-made mozzarella sticks, purple rice arancini from Ralston Farms. Purple rice.
Yeah, I saw that. Yum. And then one thing that we got last time we were there was the board, which is really quite the diverse and a lot of variety on that. Talk about what's on the board.
So we do Pettigene grilled bacon, or bologna, excuse me, and it's really, really thick cut.
And I got most of that when it was at my time.
And then we have a white wine rabbit sausage, and it's outstanding. Pickled okra and carrots, we do all that in-house. Onion confit, a savory cheesecake that changes every week. And then crostini bread, sometimes you'll get pita, sometimes you'll get baguette. We've started doing in-house focaccia, and that'll go on the board, and
Yeah, that sounds like a signature type of...
that's something else that was James's that we cannot get rid of.
I could make a meal out of that. So your lunch menu switches out the shareables a bit. So you've got pulled pork nachos on there, and it adds some more sandwiches, including bacon, egg salad, and chicken salad. So I'm guessing those sound interesting.
Well, the bacon egg salad is also another James thing, and it is the best egg salad you will ever eat in your life. It's something I will never, ever get rid of. The chicken salad is my grandmother's recipe.
Great.
So it's excellent. We actually switched. We just got rid of the pulled pork nachos.
Okay.
And we replaced it with the house-made mozzarella sticks. Now, the house-made mozzarella sticks, we make the mozzarella cheese and the breading.
Okay. So they're not just making the stick; you're making everything.
Yeah, we're making everything.
Well, that changes a little bit from the typical ones that come right out of a bag.
These do not come out of a bag.
Yeah, exactly. None of it does. And again, I'm sure your weekday lunch specials are popular, and they're Southern classics. I mean, particularly, you've got chicken fried steak with cream gravy on Tuesdays. You got fried chicken on Thursdays. Fried catfish on Fridays. Are those I mean, how can those not be hits?
I mean, they're all hits.
Yeah.
Every day. I mean, weeks vary because you might not want to eat the same thing every week. But when the town feels like fried chicken, man, Thursday is crazy. Same with Friday, Wednesday, or SOS day.
Yeah.
Which
we know what SOS is.
Yeah, we all know what it is.
So, which is roast beef with gravy served over Texas toast.
Well, it's not. It's not. Ours is roast beef. It's not chip beef.
Okay.
It is roast beef that we cook for 18 to 20 hours.
Okay.
Real slow and low, and then it goes over Texas toast, and then we do a brown cream gravy, so it's not a white gravy.
Oh, that sounds
And it's
good.
basically all the jus that we pulled from the braising liquid and blend it all up, strain it, add cream, thicken, and that's that. And it is phenomenal.
Even though I've had lunch already, it makes me hungry for sure. And then, as you mentioned earlier with the swamp grits, that you do brunch. So you have brunch on Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 2. And it features many of the same staples from your lunch menu, but then it's got a bunch of breakfast and brunch classics, including, I love your take on Eggs Benedict, because it's really not, it's bacon, sausage, and eggs over biscuits with a Creole hollandaise. You got pancakes, corned beef hash, lots of stuff. Is brunch been a good meal for you guys?
Brunch has been a great meal for us. We do brine our own briskets for corned beef, so we make our own corned beef. The Creole hollandaise is awesome. It's whole grain mustard, Louisiana hot sauce, a little lemon juice, and then everything else that goes in hollandaise.
Yeah.
And then the fact that, like you said, you're getting bacon and sausage.
Sure.
It's a win.
Yeah, I could see that being one of those, again, I can't necessarily bust out of work in Little Rock and drive up for a normal weekday lunch, but boy, on Saturday and Sunday, I could sure make my way up. And we've been talking about it. I've got to get that back on the list, I think.
And we do make our pancake batter from scratch.
Oh, it sounds good. My wife is a pancake lover for sure. And then something I had not noticed, I went back to the website in my exhaustive research for our episode of Heaping Spoonful. There's an experience called the Burrow that will be offered periodically in your upstairs room. Where did that come from?
Okay, so me and my sous chef had talked about doing a more upscale event because we do have a very nice building.
For sure.
And we started doing some research, and it turns out rabbits make dens for them and their babies.
Right.
But the community of rabbits form tunnels and create bigger dens where they kind of just hang out and gather. And so we said, let's call it the Burrow. And we passed the idea along, and we got approval, and we tried it once just this past couple of weeks, and it was a success. I think everybody loved it. The food, it was totally different. Not to say that our food's not already really nice, but we went above and beyond to do different things, took our time. We explained, it's going to be a longer dining experience. Mm-hmm. Instead of pouring wine behind the bar, we did wine service at the table, tablecloths, and things like that. The next one's going to be March 30th, but it was great. We offered 4 appetizer options.
So it's like a fixed, you just pick your thing.
No, it wasn't. It was a la carte.
It's a la carte, okay.
It was a la carte. We basically, that night, we ran 2 different restaurants. Upstairs was the Burrow. Downstairs was the Grumpy Rabbit.
Right.
Wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but we got it done and we got it out, and people, I think people loved it.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, something special. So that is really, really neat. And March 30th, and of course, we hope people listen to this for years to come, but we'll certainly get a chance because this episode will be out well in advance of March 30th. So thanks, Kyle. I really appreciate you coming over and being our guest today on Heaping Spoonful. Continued good luck with the Burrow and with all that you're doing at the Grumpy Rabbit, because you're doing all the right things that are going to keep the Grumpy Rabbit at the top of people's list as one of the best restaurants in Arkansas. And I might add, pretty much sweep the restaurant awards for restaurants that are not in Little Rock. So I've seen the list of Arkansas Times Award winners, and Grumpy Rabbit is all over it. So I also want to thank all of you in podcast land for checking out this episode of Heaping Spoonful. Remember, we post new episodes on the first and the third Tuesdays of each month. So be on the lookout for those. And hey, go back and check out some ones you might have missed. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Heaping Spoonful. On behalf of all of us at Benny Keith Foods, Mid-South Division, please know how much we love connecting you with the legends of the culinary scene and their unique stories. I look forward to the next time we can offer you another Heaping Spoonful.